sugar, spice, and everything nice. These were the ingredients chosen to create the perfect little girl. But Professor Utonium accidentally added an extra ingredient to the concoction, Chemical X.
Alright, stop. Stop right there. Before we get started, I wanted to say thank you everybody for all the love, the support, the comments, the likes, the subscriptions. It really means a lot to me, and I really didn't imagine that we would be kicking off the YouTube channel like this. I've been tinkering with this thing for a little while, so to see it actually reach out to people in a way that is engaging and talks about story, it's my passion. I love doing it. So if you guys could do me a favor, hit that like button, subscribe, share, and definitely comment, because I want to have an open discourse with you about all this stuff. But let's get into the video. So I wanted to talk about Powerpuff Girls in particular, because this is something that popped into my head a couple days ago, and I just had to talk about it with you guys, and I didn't know how to frame it, but now I do. So, you know, there's the sugar, the spice, the everything nice that makes the perfect little girls. But Chemical X is kind of the key to this whole conversation, right? So, it was an accident. So why did the professor actually make the little girls? What purpose do they actually have, since being a superhero is just a coincidence? Now, in the new series that got canceled or rebooted or whatever, I don't know what happened to it, but in that iteration, they say that it's on purpose. But the original source material, as you saw at the beginning, said he accidentally smashed into a beaker which poured Chemical X into the concoction that exploded and created the perfect little girls, right? So why? Why make the girls in the first place? Now, this racked my brain for a little bit, because it was like, wait a minute, that really doesn't make sense. So if he's looking for companionship, there are two different cases where the professor actually had substantial potential for a relationship. I guess substantial for one of them is kind of questionable, because in one of the early episodes of the Powerpuff Girls, he develops a relationship with I'm a Good Lady, which is just the cover name for Sedusa. And at another point later on in the series, he kind of starts developing a relationship with Miss Keene, the Powerpuff Girls' teacher. Now, neither of those relationships work out, but it still proves the fact that the professor is capable of developing a relationship, right? And if he wanted kids, he could have just had kids the natural way, you know, the birds and the bees and whatnot. So, what's going on? Now, what I think it is, I think the professor, in a way, resembles Frankenstein. And I mean Mary Shelley's Frankenstein. Now, Frankenstein was also a scientist who didn't really need companionship because he had a wife and everything. But what they have in common is kind of this obsession with creating life. That's the big thing. So, the reason that Mary Shelley's Frankenstein was obsessed with creating life was because he was mourning the death of his mother, who succumbed to scarlet fever. Now, we don't have any sort of proof or frame of reference for that from Professor Utonium, but at least in my opinion, there isn't another good reason to just artificially make humans. In fact, Mary Shelley's Frankenstein is the most substantial fictional case of a human trying to create another human just out of parts. And you can argue that sugar, spice, and everything nice isn't necessarily human parts like Mary Shelley Frankenstein is, but it still has the same realm of possibility. So I think there is some sort of deep psychological issue that the professor is dealing with that is never spoken about in a series ever. Now, obviously, all of this is just conjecture. It's, how do you say? It's just supposition. But I find it really interesting, and this is a show that I used to watch a lot as a kid, and it's something that I never ever thought about. So, this is where I hand it off to you guys. Why do you think the professor made the Powerpuff Girls in the first place? Because it was not to be superheroes in the main source. They were never actually meant to be superheroes. It was as accidental as Static Shock or The Flash, and it was just some explosion, and they just happened to have powers. Thank you guys for watching this. I had a lot of fun making it. I really would appreciate you leave a like, subscribe, comment. Let me know what you think, because this is something that I find really interesting. Holding back these pages of fictional history. So, I'll catch you on the next one.